Welcome back to Creative Outcomes. If this is your first time here, we work with nearly 100 digital and creative agencies. We bring you the inside scoop and spill the tea on what makes the best the best. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications to keep up with our latest hacks. On today's episode, we're going to continue our mini-series where we discuss different types of incentive compensation. If you missed our first episode on the mini-series, we talked about phantom equity, what it is, when to implement it. On today's episode, we're going to talk about sales commissions.
All right. Hi, Meredith. By the way, I'm surprised we're talking sales commissions, by the way. And I said that because, as we both know, it's not that common in a lot of agencies. And in some ways, I'd say it carries a little bit of a stigma. So I don't know. Why do you think this is something we should be talking about?
Yeah, so good question. We just love a good controversy around here. I think a couple of reasons why it's good to talk about. While it's true in traditional branding and design agencies, they tend to avoid the classic sales team with the sales commission. But there are a bunch of other types of shops where commissions are more natural fit, like media services. Teams that have digital products or more product-sized services also a fit. And just because sales commissions aren't common, it doesn't mean they're a bad idea. It's another type of incentive compensation, and incentive comp is all about aligning the right incentives to the right people. It's just another tool in the tool belt for the owners to make a decision and just makes the best fit, Does that make sense? Do you agree with that?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Who doesn't?
Cool. All right, let's start with the basics. What is sales commission and how does it typically work?
Yeah, well, look, so sales commission is basically just incentive compensation tied to incremental new business, right? So generally you have a salesperson or BD person and they get a percentage of new work that they sell, and that's sales commission.
I think the challenging part is how much do I pay this person? Is it a percentage? Is it a percentage of the deal? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, look, so there isn't a standard percentage. I've seen it all over the map. I guess there's probably a theoretical maximum. At some point you're paying so much of the new work that it's not worth doing or delivering. Yeah. But I have seen it. So 15, 20% is probably about as high as it could theoretically go. But I've seen it well below 1%. And I think in terms of figuring out what the number is, pretty easy math, right? So the first question is just, okay, I have a person and I want to compensate them based on new sales. So the first question is, what is their quota? In other words, what do we think is a reasonable amount of business for them to generate based on how many hours they're able to devote to this thing, whether it's full-time or not, right? And ideally, you have some history to go on. If this is your first BD person or you don't have history, then there's some degree of guesswork, but it's basically what do I think is reasonable for a person to generate? And then the second question is, okay, what am I compensating them for? If they do a good job, how much are they making, right? This is a comp decision. And so from there, you're just dividing one by the other. So let's say that I've got a person and their commission, if they do a good job, is $50,000. And I've decided that doing a good job means selling $1 million of work. That's their quota, right? So then $50,000 divided by $1 million, that's 5%. So I'm going to pay them 5% of every deal that comes in. If they get $1 million, they get 5% of that. That's 50,000. That's how it works. If they sell less, they'll get a little bit less. If they sell more, they'll make more. And often, if you exceed your quota, you start to increase the percentage that you get. You get a thing called accelerators, so you make even more money. But that's how it works.
Yeah, that makes sense. But how do you figure out the last part? How much commission to what's their goal commission to get paid? Is it tied to base salary? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So this one, there definitely is no perfect answer here. So I ran ops previously at a media agency, and in media, the sales is traditionally you have a full outbound sales team, like we did, and we were paying 50% base. So total compensation, half of it was guaranteed as base salary, half of it was incentive compensation or commission. And in that case, media is one of these things that's a very straightforward sale. It's dominated by a bunch of sort of lone wolf sellers. And you've got a bunch of people who are comfortable with the idea of taking more risk for higher upside. So in that case, a 50-50 split made a lot of sense. There's plenty of other situations where that makes less sense. And I've seen something that's less aggressive, 80% base, 20% commission. This makes sense in situations where you might have a person who you're trying to get a portion of their time devoted to sales. And so you want them to be doing other things too. And so you give them like more base salary in order to compensate for those other things. It might make more sense if it's like a less straightforward or a more discretionary kind of a sale. And honestly, it also might make sense like if this is your first BD person and you're struggling with like what to set the quota at, you can kind of de-risk that decision by saying, well, we're just going to make, less of your comp based on sales. And so if we get it wrong, whether way under or way over, then like, the impact is relatively minimal. But anyways, like this is a discretionary decision. This is all over the map.
Let me ask you another question. Do you think this might get too into the weeds, but do you think that when you're looking at actually paying out commissions, like is it on collected receivables? Is it on like when does that trigger? Because I think that's important for small businesses. Like we often don't have a lot of cash on hand, and we're working with companies with 90-day payment terms. Like we can't afford to be like, what's that look like?
That's a really good question. So you see it all over the map, right? So generally, what happens is, regardless of when you pay, as a seller, you're only going to get commission for revenue that we book, earn, and collect, right? So you could do one of two things. So, like at our agency, we would pay on bookings. So we pay every quarter, and we'd say, how much revenue did you book this quarter? Great, we'll pay you on that, even if we haven't done the work yet or collected it. By the way, that's very generous, but we were in like a pretty competitive environment. And so that was what we had to do. However, the caveat was, hey, guess what? If for whatever reason this thing gets canceled or the debt goes bad and they don't pay, that's going to be clawed back from future commission. And at that point, like your only risk is the person leaves or whatever. But if you are not in a particularly competitive situation, then the better way to do it is to compensate on revenue. So like not, hey, you booked this like, 2023 deal, I'm going to pay you now. No, we would wait until we actually did the work, and even better, until you actually collect the money. I would say for like an agency or a studio, that would be what I would recommend.
Yeah, I agree. It helps with cash flow.
Yeah. All right. Well, so let me ask you this question. What if like you're working with agency, you are working with agency owners every day. Like, why do you think? So we talked about there being a stigma. Like, what do you think there's a stigma attached to sales commission? Like, why don't we see this comp plan more commonly?
Yeah, the couple answers. One, a lot of the businesses I work with, the owners are still actively involved in business development. So like you don't need to pay commission on that, right? The owner's doing it. I think the bigger piece of it though is like with agencies, and we actually had used this analogy earlier, or you and I used it offline, but like agencies are like a team sport, right? Like maybe it's a football, you're all working together, you're driving the ball down the field. But then like in a traditional, if you're selling some type of widget or a product, it's more of like track, and you're just like you're running the track alone. And so with the team sport, you got to all be aligned and all be on the team. So like you don't want to cause friction by your salesperson out here selling something that like the team isn't all on board to service. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think you've done it. It's funny because I didn't really think of it that way until we talked about it. But I totally agree. I mean, I think it's like you said, it's very much of a team sport. Like in the media agency, like you're selling a very discrete product, right? So you don't need a bunch of creatives or strategists to come in and make the sale. It's pretty straightforward. And for the most part, like a dollar spent on media is a dollar spent on media. And while there is like some qualifications in vetting, it's not nearly to the degree that you would have in an agency context. So like in media, it makes a lot of sense to say, hey, you individual, you are responsible for that sale. So here is your money for doing it. In an agency, like you said, it's a team sport. And so it's very hard to attribute the sale to like one person and give them money and not everybody else. So yeah, that makes sense.
The other thing I see, and this is part of it, is like uh the business owner wants to do like some type of cool project, and like maybe it's not going to make as much money, and that's like in the opposite interest of a single salesperson, right? And they're doing that cool project because it looks good on the website, or like they just think it's awesome, and so like it's you have that conflicting interest.
Well, that's another challenge when you I mean, again, the whole point of incentive compensation is to align incentives with behaviors. And so sales commission incentivizes selling work, just full stop. And so you give somebody commission, they are going to be motivated to get dollars in, and they don't care what those dollars look like. Again, if you're selling t-shirts or widgets or car parts or even media or other productized digital products, very easy, straightforward. But in a creative context, it's not. And so you, like we said, create a lot of friction when you're paying somebody on sales, but you continually tell them, nope, that one doesn't work, and nope, that one doesn't work. Even though, hey, your livelihood and your family's food depends on this, but not that one, not that one, not that one. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. All right. So that makes sense, and I agree. I think that makes so. So what do you in this dynamic, this team sport with a high degree of discretion around the work that we choose? What's a decent alternative to like incentive comp?
And we'll dig more into this. So like let's stay high level right now. I could go into the weeds, but we really like profit sharing. We like a team bonus model. So like essentially you set a target at the beginning of the year. It's either a revenue target or a profit margin target. If you hit those targets, you get paid out. If you don't hit those targets, you don't get paid out. And there's lots of different ways to do that. Like I said, we'll talk more next episode on like how exactly to structure that. But my vote is either profit sharing or team bonus based on some type of goal.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. And again, the only thing I'd add is just like with sales comp or any other incentive comp plan, the most important thing to get right is who are we trying to incentivize? What are we trying to incentivize them to do? And to be very explicit. So if we're trying to get behaviors to do a thing, you got to tell people, here's the thing we want you to do, and here's what you get if it happens, right? So
thank you everyone for listening. For more on how to build a profitable sellable agency, subscribe to our channel, check us out on social media at Upsourced, and we'll see you guys next time.
see you next time.